Okay, guys, we're back here with our science notes here. What we're going to do is, if you would like to follow along, it's your coach book still again. And we are working on page 23 in our coach book if you choose. And you're also going to need this packet that we've been working on to do our close readings. So we are going to get started here. And when you throw a ball up in the air, you know that it will fall back down. This happens because the force called gravity. Another force acts slow in the ball as the ball falls. You will learn how these forces affect motion of objects. Force of gravity. Gravity is a force that pulls an object towards each other. Gravity attracts objects toward each other even if the objects do not touch. You probably think of gravity as a force pulling objects towards the ground, but this force acts everywhere in the universe, not just the Earth. Gravity pulls all objects in the universe towards one another. Let's see if we can answer any questions here. It says, blank is a force that pulls objects towards one another. So what did we say pulls force towards one another? Yep, please put that in. It's gravity. Pulls objects towards one another. Gravity attracts objects blank each other even if the objects do not touch. Gravity attracts objects toward each other even if the objects do not touch. So gravity attracts objects. Gravity attracts objects. Yep, towards each other, even if the objects do not touch. Gravity pulls blank objects in the universe toward each other. Gravity pulls all objects in the universe towards each other. The more blank of an object has, the more the blank it is pulled to gravity. We have not gotten to. Okay, we're on the second paragraph right here. An object with mass exerts a force of gravity that pulls the object around it. The more mass an object has, the greater its pull of gravity. Gravity keeps you from floating off into space. Gravity helps keeps the moon in orbit around the Earth. Gravity also helps keep Earth in orbit around the sun. Okay, so the more blank an object has, the more blank is pull of gravity. So I see it. The more mass an object has, the blank is pull. The greater the pull of gravity. Gravity keeps you from floating off into zoom back out. Gravity keeps you from floating off into space. The moon in blank around Earth. Gravity keeps the moon in orbit around Earth, and Earth in orbit around the. So if it keeps him floating from space, the moon in orbit around the Earth, and Earth in orbit around the sun. The force of gravity depends on two factors we have not gotten to. Okay? Just as you are attracted to Earth, Earth is attracted to you. You notice only the force that Earth exerts on you because the force you exert on Earth is so much smaller. The force of gravity depends on two factors. These factors are mass and distance. The force of gravity depends on two factors. What did we say they were? Mass and distance. Gravity attracts blank objects towards one another. So let's see. Because of gravity, water always flows downhill. Recall the mass is the amount of matter that makes up an object. An object with more mass exerts a greater force of gravity than an object with less mass. Think about an apple falling from a tree to earth. Both the apple and earth pull on each other because they both have mass. But because the apple's mass is so small, its force of gravity is very small. It does not pull very strongly on earth. So, gravity attracts blank objects towards one another. I don't know if I see that here. Let's see if we read the next page. Earth has much more mass than an apple. This means Earth's force of gravity is larger than the apple's force of gravity. Earth's gravity pulls the Earth down to the ground. As the apple falls, the gravity actually pulls Earth up a very small distance. But Earth moves only in the tiniest amount of Earth's pull, so is so much greater than that of a distant apple. The second factor that determines the force of gravity between two objects is the distance from one another. As objects move closer, they pull on each other, grows stronger. An object moves farther apart, their pull weakens. Think of it like magnets. So the closer they are, they're going to be stronger and pull together, and the farther apart, their strength is going to be less. Think of a spacecraft traveling toward another planet. As the spacecraft moves away from Earth, Earth's pull on it decreases. As the spacecraft moves closer to the other planet, the planet's pull on the spacecraft increases. So here's one. See how the arrows, it's closer, so these are more, the arrows are closer, so therefore there's more pull. There's a middle amount pull, and this has less pull. Okay, let's see if we can answer any of these questions still. Gravity attracts blank objects towards one another. Let's come back to that. If mass blank, gravity blank. If mass blank, gravity blank. Okay, let's see if it's tied to this paragraph. Oh, sorry, you can't see. Let's see if it's tied to this paragraph right here. Let's see. Gravity attracts blank objects towards one another. See, I don't agree with this, so we're going to leave this one. Gravity attracts blank objects towards one another. If mass is more, it's going to have a greater force. So if mass is greater, more, gravity is going to be greater. If If blank increases gravity, blank is not the only force that acts upon falling onto Earth's surface. Well, we know that it's not just mass. We know this one is blank is not the only force that acts upon Earth's surface. So this is mass right here. If blank increases gravity, so if mass increases, gravity